Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA Daily. On today's show, the Rockets have won 4 in a row and they're doing it with offense. What does this mean for their title chances? Plus, Morant says he can't find joy in Memphis. I think I know how this is going to end. Let's jump in.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today we're going to be talking again about the mess in Memphis with Morant. We'll also be looking ahead to some of tonight's matchups. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me as always from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He's a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
I am still playing with joy. I just want everyone to know that my joy is fine, so everyone can rest assured.
From the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's also a Bulls and Bears creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize.
If Morant hasn't found joy yet, please don't let him watch Locked On NBA because he's probably about to get cooked. So there you go there.
I cannot wait to dig into this, but we haven't really talked about the Houston Rockets in a while. We're going to start with some hoops here. They've, after their win over the Mavericks last night, they have won 4 games in a row, despite the fact that they didn't shoot that well from 3 in that game. They turned the ball over too much against Dallas, but Jackson Gatlin pointed out that it says a lot about the team that they could still get this kind of win, even on what they consider a bad night.
But the big takeaway here for me is that this is kind of the floor of this Rockets team. Like, they played an awful game in a lot of different regards, but despite all of that bad, right, Rockets were still able to come away with the win. How were they able to do that? Well, some of the win conditions that are, one of them's not new to this team, right? The rebounding and the second chance points, but the free throw shooting. That was a big one, right? The Rockets now have a built-in kind of buffer against every team they play against. And so when the Rockets are doing those things, right, the win conditions that this team has established are their bread and butter, their competitive advantage on a night-to-night basis.
So, Haize, you've kind of planted your flag as the Houston Rockets guy on the show, so I want to start with you here. Do you agree with Jackson that this is kind of the Rockets' floor? And if it is, what does that mean for their title chances here?
I mean, I would hope that this is not their floor because, I mean, I get it, beating your chest 4 games in a row is great, but they've beat Brooklyn, Toronto, Boston, and Dallas. So I think we got to see better competition before we can establish a floor quite yet, and that's even with me being a guy that's really big on the Houston Rockets. Now, benefit is they're number 1 in offensive rating. They're still top 10 in defense rating. And as we've seen, if you could be top 10 in offense and defense rating, it's a pretty good sign that you're going to be a good team. Now, it's still way early in the season to be looking at that and taking it wholeheartedly yet. So I don't think we've seen a floor established. And I'd say we probably haven't seen a floor established for most NBA teams. It just isn't a large enough sample size with as many teams as you need to face before we can say that, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, beating Dallas without Anthony Davis in a close back and forth ugly battle, I'm not necessarily going to be real excited about. However, I got to say, if we look at schedule adjusted, right? So let's look at who they played and how they performed. And even with the 24th ranked defensive strength of schedule, they are still second in offensive rating and second in defensive rating over Douglas Breeze. And this to me is the most impressive part. So they're 21st in turnover rate. Like, that was the whole thing for us, right? Like, a lot of us were like, hey, no Fred VanVleet. They're going to turn the ball over. It's going to be sloppy. And it turns out, like, no, like, you just need someone to dribble up the floor. And yeah, you might turn the ball over a little bit, but as soon as it gets into Alperen Şengün's hands, you're good. And man, Thompson has been phenomenal. He was incredible last night. He was so good last night, man. Tari Eason, by the way, is shooting 57% from 3. Probably not sustainable, but pretty good to have a stretch 4 who can defend like that. They're first in offensive rebound rate. They're first in free throw rate. They're first in opponent free throw rate. They're 9th in EFG. These are the 4 factors that everyone talks about as far as being like the key numbers towards winning. They make shots. They draw fouls. They don't foul you. They rebound the basketball. That's great basketball. And it doesn't really matter the turnover rate. This Rockets team, even with the strength of schedule, I am very impressed with the start.
I mean, the biggest concern we all had was on the offensive end, and that seems to be what's carrying them here. Matt, you just rattled off a bunch of the numbers there. They're 30th in three-point attempt rate. They're also making 42% of their threes, which leads the NBA. Now, certainly some of these guys are shooting way over their head, but Haize, I want to go back to you here because I think Matt and I were a little bit more skeptical on the Rockets than you were, especially after Fred VanVleet went down in terms of them just being able to get into their offense. But what are you seeing from this team offensively that's working?
I think it's still that they still do have balance. Like they still are getting as many players involved as you need. Like typically, if you want to be a good offense, you can't just be one guy and a bunch of supporters. Like you have Kevin Durant, you have Alperen, who are both averaging over 20 points per game. But then you still have guys like Embiid Thompson, 16. You have 15 from Jabari Smith, 10 from Tari Eason. So they're getting enough offense from other places to where that gap between their offense and defense is that they're doing enough offensively and their defense is still really, really good. And so the combination of those two things put them in a spot to where they're still going to outpace and outwork most teams. So that's the thing. And, even with the turnovers aren't what I thought they would be, even without having a point guard. I don't know how this is going to, hold out once they do start facing off against better defenses and better competition. But through this part of the season so far, they've just been really good and balanced offensively.
Hey, how about Josh Okogie? Let's give him a shout out for how well he's played for them because he's been absolutely terrific. He closed that game last night, made an absolutely crucial play late in that game. And then Embiid Thompson, just again, he's absolutely ridiculous. But with Alperen Şengün on the floor, they have a 129 offensive rating. That's hotter than the sun. With him off the court, it goes to 105. There's a 23.9 difference in their offensive rating with and without Şengün. I am going to start this right now. If the Rockets get themselves above 50, Alperen Şengün is a serious MVP candidate.
Wow. What he did last night for that game-winning bucket. I mean, getting taking this guy off the dribble from starting 30 feet away from the basket. I mean, we just don't see a lot of bigs do that. And Alperen Şengün kind of getting to his right hand and getting to the spot that he wanted on the floor. He's showing all of it. Matt, you mentioned Josh Okogie there. They put him in the starting lineup. They've won their last 3 games. That's helping with their spacing and all these things. And they still have guys out, right? Like, this is a team that could potentially make moves. I know where Haize stands. Matt, are you reconsidering where you have Houston in terms of your tiers based on this start and this win streak? Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like, I think, I still put it, I guess not just because I had him in that tier 3, right? I still think it's OKC, Denver, and then Houston. Like I watch Denver every night in the arena, and that can cause confirmation bias and observer bias. Like that just causes a bias when you're in the building for it. But like the Nuggets offenses, I have a lot more confidence in the Nuggets offense than the Rockets offense because the Rockets offense is boosted by some hot shooting and their profile isn't as good as far as like where they generate shots from. I do not know how you're going to slow down this Denver offense. I don't know what you're going to do with it. It is clicking on all cylinders already, but that doesn't mean that the Rockets can't be legitimate title contenders just because they don't have them above Denver. Like, honestly, the best way to kind of put it right now is I think it's OKC, Denver, own tier, Rockets, own tier, and then the rest of the West. Get the Warriors out of here.
Haize, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a fair analysis. I don't think that's home cooking over there by Matt Moore.
Ja Morant made headlines again with his comments to reporters after Monday night's loss. Is this the beginning of the end of the Morant era in Memphis? I guess technically the beginning of the end would have been Monday's show. We're talking it again on the Tuesday show. We'll do it after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay, no hidden fees at checkout. Plus, I can see exactly what my view looked like before I bought the tickets with their in-app seat view feature. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even get NBA tickets for under $25. So, take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, Create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Game Time. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. Fellas, we talked yesterday about Ja Morant's suspension. Well, he did come back on Monday night against the Pistons. The Grizzlies, they still lost. They dropped their third game in a row. When asked about the suspension and his feelings toward the organization after the game, Ja Morant wasn't exactly looking to mend fences, I think it's fair to say. Here's what he told Locked On Grizzlies co-host DeMichael Cole. DeMichael asked Ja Morant if he has his usual joy right now. Ja Morant responded, quote, "No," end quote. He was then asked by another reporter what can be done to get it back. Ja Morant said, quote, "We'll see," end quote. Matt, are the bridges just too burnt at this point between Morant and Memphis? And is this just another step in what eventually will be Morant getting traded?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. I think the organization is still behind him. Maybe they shouldn't have fired Taylor Jenkins and hired a coach that was going to absolutely cause all this. But hey, accountability, rah, instead of dealing with the realities of the NBA. I'll defend Morant here. Look, he was asked a question and he answered. And we want these guys to be honest. The ideal, because I always think, like, what's the ideal answer? What are you looking for in these, like, for these responses? Not from a reporter perspective, because your job is not to kind of anticipate questions. We do, but not the job. DeMichael Cole, by the way, has been amazing throughout this entire process of documenting, talking about, providing inside context, and he is the best kind of beat writer where he does all this without necessarily flavoring it with his own bias.
Agreed.
Like, DeMichael is amazing. But he gets asked this question. Like, the ideal answer you want is, it doesn't matter if I feel joy or not. I have to be a leader for this team. Like, that's the ideal answer. But he feels betrayed, turned on, and like the organization is blaming him for the fact that Brandon Clark's out, Zach Edey's out, Ty Jerome is out, Scottie Pippen Jr.'s out, and the coach is running a system that he doesn't agree with. A lot of this apparently has to deal with like his rotation system, like where Asala wants him to go for shorter stints. Screwing with a star player's rotation is always going to piss them off every single time. Like, these guys know their game and they know how, like, what they need to be comfortable. It's fine for you to mess with the rotation of Cedric Coward or Jalen Wells or any of these other guys. Ja Morant, regardless of his failures, is still certified. Guy was an all-star, MVP candidate, is still the franchise. Like, the organization has made a lot of attempts to repair things with Morant. I do not think Morant has handled this the right way. I do not think Morant is the one that started this. He didn't just come out and be like, I'm mad because we're losing. Morant's not mad because they're losing. Morant's mad because they're losing and his coach is out there blaming him for it. So, like, I have a lot of actual, like, sympathy for where Morant is at, despite the fact that I know that he is contributing to the problem.
That's a very well-rounded point there from Matt Moore. I'm not gonna lie, I came in here with a lot of vitriol. No, I'm not say a lot of vitriol, but a little disappointed by the comments of Ja Morant. Like, the first of all, don't mention joy. He's triggering my co-host Wes, mentioning he doesn't have joy. Like, don't trigger Wes. Wes is a good guy. Don't trigger Wes. But then on top of that, like, yeah, the Grizzlies have a lot of injuries. They have a lot of things going on right now. They're not outside the thick of things. Like, they're not the Pelicans. They've won 3 games. If you look at the Western Conference, there are a lot of teams right now all with 3 wins. So like, this is not where the season has gotten away from them. I hate that it's almost treated as much like the season has gotten away from the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, it can turn into that, and part of that is the play style. But I think that this just comes down to Ja still doesn't understand how to deal with the media. He doesn't understand that how the things that he say, how they're going to be taken. I'm not saying that's completely on him to have to think about that all the way, but to a degree, I do think it is. Like, you're the team's best player. You're still should be the leader of that team. And because of that, you need to think about what you say and when you say it. And I just think that that's the biggest thing to take away from here. He doesn't say the right things. And then on top of that, sometimes his body language is all that type of stuff. It gives too much leeway for people to take it and run with it.
Yeah, and he does the victim thing, which is really annoying to me, where it's like he does this thing where he acts like, I hate this from players. Player does or says thing A, player responds then from being like, well, you guys are just going to twist it. No, man, you did this. Like, we're all trying to find the guy who did this. Like, come on, man. Right. And like, there's been no real accountability for Ja being like, I was immature. I was not handling myself right. The city needs better from me. I got to be better. But at the same time, the problem is that continuously the organization, I am frustrated because they brought in the assistants they fired Taylor Jenkins for. Then they gave the reins to Asalo, who they brought in, and now Asalo's causing the problems with Ja Morant. Like, I just think this is about the CEO aspect of the NBA head coaching, Wes. It's about, it is not fair that I understand people's belief of like the coach should be able to set the rotations. The coach should be able to hold players accountable. The coach should be able to, like, that should be it. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but we have to live in the world that we do. And that reality is that that this is not how this works in the NBA, and this is fumbling that situation because now and the more that Ja expresses his frustration with what he's receiving from the organization through the head coach, the more it makes Ja look like the kind of person that we entered in here wanting to talk about, which only isolates him further. We're in a negative feedback loop here with Ja Morant.
If I could split the difference between both of you guys, on the one hand, I understand where Matt's coming from. Like, if you want, I don't want Ja Morant to get labeled like a guy who gets his coaches fired, because the organization fired Taylor Jenkins. They added guys to his staff. They tried to force this new thing onto him. It didn't work. That was more an organizational failure than it was a Ja Morant thing, even though Morant was clearly not happy with the system. But they changed the system halfway through the season because Morant wasn't happy with it. That wasn't necessarily... Matt, you're on mute.
I always do that. That's not accurate. That's not what happened. The front office was not happy. And it depends on who you talk to, because some people are like, yeah, they weren't running enough pick and roll with Ja Morant. And the other people, do you know what they say, Wes? They say they weren't running enough pick and roll with Ja Morant and Zach Edey, who the front office drafted and talked about as the difference maker.
Zach Edey not exactly working in that high tempo zero ball screen system. So you have that. So that's not entirely on Morant. And then you have Isolo in here not doing an awesome job. It's not like they had this broad coaching search over the summer. They just sort of handed this guy the job as the interim and then said, yep, you're good enough. We'll stick with you here. And to Morant's point, he is upset with the rotations. He's talked about this. He's playing 28.5 minutes a game, career low in minutes per game. And it's not as if there's this awesome Tyus Jones point guard coming off the bench behind him right now. Ty Jerome's hurt. It's like, who are the other point guards that you're trying to make minutes for on this roster? That said, to Haize's point, it just feels like everybody's taking the low road here. Nobody involved is taking the high road. Isolo's kind of throwing shade at Morant. The organization is suspending him. Ja Morant is saying the wrong thing, quote unquote, the wrong things in front of the media. And with nobody taking the high road, I think the bridges are just being burnt here. There's just a huge leadership void right now in Memphis, whether it's coming from the coaches, the players, the front office, whatever it is. We even had Kleiman before the season talking about how this is a big year for Ja Morant and kind of putting the challenge on him. If I'm Morant, I understand the concerns that people have with him, and why he's frustrated. But I also think that somebody in that organization needs to step up and be a leader, because they don't really have that right now.
None.
I mean, you know, I would. Look, Jaren Jackson Jr. went out there last night, 21 points, 8 of 14 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, four boards. He doesn't rebound enough. 2 blocks. Had an amazing block. Like, Jaren's a leader. That's it. This is Jaren's team.
And Cedric Howard too, I guess.
Yeah.
And so he's been doing stuff as a rookie. Here's the Grizzlies' next 10 games. It's pretty rough. Rockets, Mavericks, Thunder, at Knicks, at Celtics, at Cavs, at Spurs. A little bit of a reprieve against the Kings, at Mavericks, and then the Denver Nuggets. Things could get worse before they get better, Haize.
Not could. They will. They are going to get worse.
I will go opposite. They're going to turn around. I think they're going to get
right.
Yeah, Zach, I can't believe I'm saying this. You have no idea how much this annoys me. Zach Edey got signed to the G League affiliate, the Memphis Hustle. And so he's on his way back. Guys, they're starting Jock Landale with Charles Bassey backing him up. That's their center right now. I will take Zach Edey. Santi Aldama in small ball minutes last night, -14. He was horrific.
Yeah.
Just get Edey back, and you'll wind up catching more teams than you think. Because you're like, well, look at the schedule. Yeah, well, the Blazers played the Lakers without Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James last night and took that L. That's how the NBA regular season works. They'll catch some wins.
Haize, how bad is it in Memphis that Matt Moore is now pro Zach Edey? That's how bad it's gotten now in Memphis. Coming up, the Warriors, though, they've also dropped 2 straight games. And while they're heavy favorites tonight, they're facing a Suns team that has won 2 in a row. We're going to look ahead to tonight's games next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Go check out Locked On Rockets and Locked On Grizzlies for more on today's top stories. Let's look ahead to tonight's game. Some good ones on the schedule, boys. We'll start here with your team, Haize. Sixers at Bulls. Chicago, 1.5-point home favorites. But the Sixers are playing well. Both of these teams playing up-tempo. What are you watching for in this one, Haize?
Man, the 76ers have been playing great. And I want to look at all the raw stats. Everything's been great for them, but they haven't played necessarily against the best competition either themselves, whereas I think the Bulls have played against a little bit better of competition. So both these teams are teams that try to get out in transition. They're very top heavy with Philly as well, whereas the Bulls rely more on depth. Now, they could be getting Jared McCain back today. I think he's listed as probable for today, but it all comes down to how do you stop or slow down a combination of Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe? That's how they're doing this thing right now. They're averaging over 50 points per game between just the two of those guys. You also have Quentin Grimes averaging 18 points off the bench, but that's about it. They are towards the bottom of the league as far as bench points. So if the Bulls are going to want to win this game, they're going to have to do so by their defense, and they're going to have to do so by the depth. And hopefully Ayo Dosunmu plays today, because if not, that takes a big hit to their depth. Those are going to be the two ways that the Bulls have to win this game. But the 76ers, who are averaging a lot of points in the paint, they're still an efficient three-point shooting team, even though they're not taking a lot. They're still hitting it at 40% clip. So the Bulls got to watch out for everything. They got to stop them from scoring in the paint. They can't let them get hot from three. If they do and they get into that momentum, and if the Bulls are missing Ayo, it could be very ugly for the Bulls very early on.
Is Embiid playing? I have to ask this on every single game.
As of right now, he is listed that he's playing.
Okay. Since November of 2021, these are Embiid's totals when he faces Nikola Vucevic. 30, 40, 25, 37, 12, 40, 31. Like, find someone you love the way that Joel Embiid loves putting up numbers on weak defensive centers. Like, find someone that loves you that way. So look, this is a pretty big game for Joel. Joel was terrible early, has had some better games, but they've been better without him. What does this look like? Is this a game where Joel actually wins it for him by absolutely just beating up on Vucevic and they look like that Sixers team? Can they win in the Embiid minutes?
It's even more than that, Pat. Not Pat. I'm sorry, Matt. If you go and look at just Embiid versus the Bulls since he was drafted, literally in Chicago at that, he must love the city of Chicago. He puts up crazy numbers against us every time. Last time he waved at a baby that was crying that he beat the Bulls. He waved at a baby.
I mean, who doesn't love Chicago? I can't blame him for it. Yeah. So, look, I want to believe in the Sixers' magic here, and if they're down, and I want to believe that this Bulls team can kind of get there, but I kind of lean Sixers here a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Embiid has been at his best so far this season. It's looked pretty rough for the 90% of it, but Tyrese Maxey is playing great. He's going to be probably the best player on the court in this game. I'm a little surprised by the line. Maybe it's just reflective of Chicago playing at home here. So it's only 1.5 points, so it's not like it's a huge spread there, but will be interesting to see how that one plays out. Let's go to this next one. Suns at Warriors. Here's a spread I can't figure out. Golden State is a 10.5-point home favorite. They've dropped their last two. The Suns have won two in a row. Devin Booker, like we talked about a couple days ago, playing at an all-star caliber level, all-NBA caliber level even. And the Warriors have struggled the last couple times, especially defensively. Matt, what are you watching for in this one?
Must not give in to temptation to pick Suns, because I do not believe in the Warriors, and I actually like the Suns squad. Phoenix, this is the change, man. They moved Mark Williams into the starting lineup, which gives Booker an actual role man, and he's helped them on the boards. Then to balance that out, they add Royce O'Neal at power forward. That balances out the shooting component. So now they've got the ability to spray to the outside for shooters. Booker's playing awesome right now. Go watch Devin Booker. He has been terrific this season. I like this matchup for Phoenix, but I will go ahead and say that the veteran geezers get it done and they eke out a win, but Phoenix keeps it competitive.
Do they cover?
Yes.
Ooh, Haize.
No, I don't think they cover.
But they get the win.
They get the win. I don't think they cover, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'll go back on covering, because there's actually like a trend. This is like the betting side stuff. Like there's a pretty bad trend for the Warriors in play here that says that it's not a great spot for them against the spread.
Yeah, Devin Booker is playing amazing right now. Averaging over 30 points per game. Oh, and 51% shooting at that. Like, to average that amount of points on that efficiency is crazy for Devin Booker. It'd be crazy right now to bet against him. Don't get me wrong. I still think the Golden State Warriors are the much better team. But when you look at things right now, shooting over 45% from three, at 51% from the field, the best of his NBA career. Yeah, I'm not betting against a guy that's still in the midst of being that hot. He'll cool off at some point, and then I'll be back against the Suns, but I'm not betting against them right now.
This game hinges on like all the randos that show up for Golden State. Like if Quentin Post has another 25-point game or some nonsense that they get, like it's really annoying to me that they keep getting bailed out by players that I don't think are very good. And then everybody's like, oh, Jimmy and Steph and Draymond. And I'm like, it's Quentin Post, but it's fine.
I feel like we haven't gotten the big Steph eruption game. Like, I know he had 42 points against Denver in that overtime game. It was overtime game, extended minutes and everything. I feel like we haven't gotten like the big eruption game from Steph. And you could even argue maybe we haven't even gotten that game from Devin Booker, considering we know what that guy's capable of too. It would be really fun to get it both on the same night in this one in San Francisco. Last one I want to ask you guys about: Thunder at Clippers. Thunder 7.5 point road favorites. The Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back. Haize, what are you looking for?
Man, I'd say just who comes in here more prepared in this game. I mean, I think that's the thing that you have to look for. This is not going to be a pretty game at all. I think that this is going to be an ugly game, and things are going to get ugly very early on. So you just got to hold on and dig in, because the Thunder are coming and they're going to kill them in this game.
I was so confident. Like, I was very high on the Clippers because I was just like, look at the roster, and I just forgot the golden rule, which is like this franchise can't be serious for 2 consecutive seasons. Like, they are unserious, and that game last night was another proof of it. I don't like, look, the Heat are good. The Heat are really good. But like the Heat are on a back-to-back in LA. They should have been hung over. That should have been easy pickings. And instead, they go in there and they get the more professional win because the Heat are a serious franchise and the Clippers are not. Thunder roll.
The Heat don't get hung over. Come on, that's the Miami flu. They know, they live in Miami. They're the best condition, most professional, nastiest, least hungover franchise in the league. Thunder are gonna kill. You never trust the Clippers. Never trust the Clippers. But this has historically been a tougher matchup for the Thunder than in years past. So we'll see what happens. They're also dealing with a few injuries here. But if you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.